Good evening, everybody. I'm here to tell you a little bit about Dart Bank and not only their essence, but also what they stand for, how they operate, and how that's really integrated into today's business strategy and how they become so successful. So, without further ado, I'd like to dive into first the history of Dart Bank. Now, it has a rather interesting history. It was actually founded back in 1925 by an individual and his best friend, actually. They came to the conclusion that starting a bank would not only be beneficial for the community, but also for their families. So they just started to quit their current day jobs and come together and form one of Mason's first and most prevalent banks. Now they've really stayed true to that core value, and what they've done is they've actually created a community within Mason, and they become almost synonymous with that community as well as the surrounding communities. Their essence, just like it was when they first started, was to assist people, help those they care about, help the community grow and thrive, as well as prosper their families. And that's really been the basic concept of Dart Bank since its founding in 1925. And not much about that concept has really changed. It's merely gotten larger. So in current days, what you can see is you can see a rather large and established institution that is still very close knit and very relatable. It's not a large presence that you can't really wrap your head around. It's not a cold, isolated presence, if you will. It's a very warm, inviting, integrated presence. And really, the idea behind it is Dart Bank is here to help the community, and the community is here to help Dart Bank. It's a very symbiotic relationship, and it always has been. Now, Dart Bank actually, since its founding until present day, we actually boast roughly just north of $488 million in assets in total, with a consistent growth rate of just about 10%. So it's relatively healthy and it's going in the right direction. Stockholders as well as employees are satisfied with the growth currently, and it's continuing on that trajectory path that it has been for the last 5 years. So that's something to really take into consideration. And not only that, but most of the growth and the prosperity is really poured back into the community. So you'll see certain charities that are sponsored, like Meals on Wheels, or you'll see United Way, different things that really pour back into the community. So while you might have an investor that is putting money in, and Dart's certainly making money off of that investor or the individual, that mortgage, whatever it might be, they're taking those funds, they're prospering themselves, and they're also prospering the community. So really, that's been a staple, and it's been a huge part of why Dart Bank has been so successful. And we'll kind of go into a little bit more of that here in a second. Um, the mission statement of Dart Bank, it really reflects what we just mentioned. Our primary purposes are to meet the financial needs of our banking communities, protect and increase the value of stockholders' investments, and serve the community in financial and non-financial ways. I'd like to emphasize non-financial ways. It really ties in everything I just explained about the essence and the beginning and foundations of Dart Bank. So that mission statement certainly ties into who Dart Bank is and its employees. Now, I first started here at Dart Bank roughly 2 years ago. About 6 months into that job, I actually got a promotion, and I ended up working as the communications center's lead, or manager, if you will, of the communications department or the contact center. And my direct supervisor of that department, or of me, is Sally Ray. Her title is the Executive Vice President of Retail Banking. So she oversees all of the offices, all of the retail aspects, really everything you can think of with the exception of non-FDIC insured investments, mortgages, and most loans in terms of like commercial loans and whatnot. Those are different departments, but everything else, she has a hand in ensuring that it runs properly, smoothly, and efficiently. She has over 40 years with art. She actually started right out of high school. She graduated high school. She actually started as an intern before she graduated, and she's been with art ever since. So she has a very strong roots in the community as well as Dart Bank, very much living the Dart Bank lifestyle and values. She's had about 25 years of those 40 years in a senior leadership role. So essentially, she has been able to really grow not only in Dart, but also in a lot of different management styles. And through those 25 years, she's had a lot of opportunities to refine those. So it's really been a blessing to work with her and really learn about how she manages, and in turn, glean and reflect on my management style and really grow in that, and use her experience to grow and not make some of the same mistakes that maybe she has made, and kind of use that as a stepping stone. So in addition to that, Sally and I, we've kind of, being in that position that I'm in, I've worked with Sally on numerous issues, but really currently the SWOT analysis for Dart Bank is fairly generic, but it's not at the same time. Everything is still very detailed with each of these concepts. So first, I would say strength. I mean, obviously, community is going to be one of the biggest strengths for Dart. It allows for positive PR, relations for individuals, ensuring the community supports the bank, and really just growing that asset for that, really growing the assets in that community. And that's wonderful. The opportunities in that would be the socio-cultural changes. What I mean by that would be more specifically the way the culture is moving, and more specifically on the issues of certain recreational uses of certain substances and different things along those lines, kind of a different shift in point of view and ethics and values and what may or may not be important within the culture. That is an opportunity for Dart, I would say. And then also market penetration. That's a weakness. The reason being is because Dart Bank is actually a national bank. It's not multinational. It's rather small. But we do have business all over the U.S. We are concentrated here in Michigan, specifically Lower Michigan and Northern Indiana. So if we're trying to really get into other markets, it makes it harder for us because we have limited branches. So market penetration is certainly a weakness. And threats is also kind of a caveat, kind of toward this as well, is banking and finance is a heavily saturated industry, and there are a lot of competitors and a lot of other firms that are vying for the same markets that we're vying for and the same assets that we're trying to compete for. So highly competitive. That is one of the biggest threats that we face. So with that, we have strategies to kind of combat those. And we have a couple here specifically, which would be technological. Technological advancements are really important in terms of like Zelle, which integrates and ensures that customers are able to bring their online banking, bring their assets together, formulate and manage all in one spot. This is key in order to stay competitive and really viable in a very competitive environment, ensuring that our customers have all the same advancements that they would expect at any other institution to ensure that we stay relevant. That's key. Same thing with interactive teller machines that we've implemented too, and a couple other different technologies that really keep us on base and on par with essentially managing technology and managing our customers' funds. The other thing that we have here would be medical marijuana market. Now, this is a very new market. It's a very volatile market. It's a very unknown market. However, because Dart Bank is smaller, we have the agility to be able to jump into this market a little bit faster, maybe land our feet a little bit easier than other larger companies that have more red tape, and we're being rewarded. So this kind of solves a couple of those things I mentioned before, that market penetration, the competitive advantage, the gaining of market share, kind of those ifs, those threats, those opportunities are now being mitigated through this. This is an incredible opportunity for Dart. Just to give you a little bit of a figure here, we have, based off of simply medical marijuana use, or medical and recreational, we have roughly a 33% projected increase in earnings, and that's net earnings. So and that alone is projected to increase 33%. So these strategies that are being implemented, which is really just maximizing return, maximizing the bottom line, as well as mitigating risk, threats, and capitalizing opportunities, is really seen specifically in this advancement here. So that would be some key strategies that we're working on here currently. Quality, here we go. Let me get back to that slide here. Quality and communication. So like I said before, projected senior management is looking to grow whether it's mortgages, commercial loans, recreational marijuana business customers, regardless of what that might be, they're looking for about 25% growth to remain relevant as well as thriving within the current community. Now, as I mentioned, we're projected to hit 33% simply off of medical marijuana and recreational marijuana business clients alone. This should bring millions of dollars to be infused and integrated into Dart through this project alone. Therefore, we'll be able to spend some of that and move some of that into other situations to maybe improve technologies, a little bit more improve advertising, marketing, whatever the case may be. This is going to allow us to really capitalize and really go after what we need to go after in order to stay relevant in the today's financial industry, especially being a small bank. So that is definitely key here. So technologies, I mentioned this a little bit before. Technologies, it's really vital that we as a bank remain relevant in all aspects. Now, this is also customer facing, like Zelle and the interactive teller machines I mentioned before, but it's also internal. In order to manage the customer's technology and ensure that there's a streamlined process, ensuring that we know our clients, we know their needs, we manage their funds, and we ensure that everything that they need is either met before they think they need it or as soon as they need it, as soon as possible. So we've done this through a couple different systems here. Private cloud, which stores our customers' data. It's accessed strictly by us. We manage everything, and we actually have profiles of each of our customers in this system that help us meet and match specific needs. And this is actually created through a couple different ways. We have some preliminary and some testing of AI technologies in our current systems, which allow us to use computer algorithms to essentially recognize and generate some of these profiles based on age, spending habits, projected potential needs in the next 5 years. And it really, what that does is that creates this all-encompassing view of what a client might need so that we can ensure that we're there to meet that need when they need it, or even before they need it. And again, we also have interactive phone systems that are, they track the type of calls that are taken. And what that does is very similar. It helps us build and ensure that everything is streamlined. Communication is streamlined, as well as customers' needs are being streamlined and met efficiently. So technology is key. Now, another part about this is structuring. So you can have all the technology in the world, all the plans in the world, but if your structuring isn't where it needs to be, you're not going to be as successful as what you could be. Structuring should be agile, transparent, and close-knit. And that's what enabled us to do a lot of the things that we've taken on or gone through in the recent past or coming up in the somewhat foreseeable future is this specific set. Everyone at Dart, it's about 150, just north of 150 employees, and everyone is agile. No one is more than 3 management sets removed from the CEO. The reason for this is because Dart doesn't want to have any sort of barrier between any of the employees in the management. They want open door, they want transparent, and they want close, synergistic, close-knit relationships. This leads to ultimately trust, stronger work environment, stronger work ethic, understanding, less fear, and ultimately an all-around more productive workforce. So that's kind of the idea behind this. And this organizational chart isn't necessarily from Dart, but it is very similar to Dart in the way it's laid out and the way that you don't have that many layers of management between, say, the employees, the frontline employees, and the CEO. And that is the reasoning behind that. For me, I have employees beneath me, myself, it goes to Sally, and then after Sally, it's the CEO. So like I said, it's very transparent, very close-knit, everyone knows everyone, and some actually even refer to it as a work family, quote unquote. So, and it's done quite well for us. It's allowed us to adapt and stay relevant when other community banks and other banks have struggled because they've been more rigid. So definitely something to attribute to our success in a lot of areas here. Management sales used at Dart here. So decision-making, organization, staffing, controlling strategies. These all come down and they have some very basic principles. So we have specifically a lot of our management decisions are based on people, and it kind of ties back into the management structure there. Decision-making, organizing, and staffing. it's all synergized. So if we make a decision, like for instance, if Sally makes a decision, she actually may have an idea where she wants to go, but she'll consult with other management, other colleagues, and really brainstorm to ensure that's the right idea. Same thing with organizing. They'll evaluate the the organizing of that particular decision, see if it's applicable, see if it's relevant. They'll hold some focus groups for the certain individuals or certain departments that would be affected by any sort of change. They'll glean their ideas, they'll implement their ideas, they'll see if they're applicable, and then they'll use them to decide on staffing and controlling of the strategy. And really, all of this is used to better DART, but also to ensure that everyone at DART feels appreciated, understood, and like they're a part of it. And then they are, like they're a part of everything, and that their efforts aren't just for a paycheck or a stockholder increase, that their efforts are actually counted, understood, and appreciated. And that is huge at DART. And I think it really should be at any management level, because it shows appreciation, and ultimately it helps create a more productive and trusting work environment. Now, over the course of this entire degree program that I've been in, it's been a wonderful experience. I would have to say I've enjoyed getting to know the people the most, and then also learning about globalized business ethics, as well as kind of tying everything together, and just really knowing how to apply and use all of the knowledge that we've gleaned through this in real world scenarios currently at my job. And that's been incredibly beneficial, incredibly beneficial. Just being able to take what I've learned in this degree program and take that back to my office and say, okay, how can I fit this in? How can I make this work? And how can I make this better? And that is beyond beneficial for me. And the most challenging aspects, I'd have to say, would be certainly in terms of disciplinary action would be one of the biggest things that I've have a difficulty with in disciplining employees, and just really ensuring that I keep in mind the person and not just the goal. And that has been one of my biggest challenges, but this degree program has really helped me get through that. And I really enjoyed it with all of you. I really appreciate it, and thank you for going through this with me. Have good luck with all of your endeavors.